Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, we are going to start the day's talk with the sixth one in the series. May everyone settle down for the talk and give the consent with 3 times sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Sukha vedana panaye king anuseti. Sukha vedana raga anusaya anuseti ti. Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, so far we have taken time to understand this particular mental concomitant or mental factor known as feeling, as Venerable Maha is recommending for us to be thorough with. And in this process, we try to understand the difference between the materiality and the mentality. And as far as the mentality is concerned, it is the feeling, the aspect we are going to talk is one of the other factors, but it is subtle when compared to the materiality. So we practice kaya anupassī viharati, that means try to understand the body as body with under the light of mindfulness, and there we specialize the materiality. If we take the breath as your primary object, how the in-breath is different from the out-breath. Or if we are taking the rising and falling of the abdomen is concerned, how the rising is different from the falling. And further, what is the beginning, the middle, and the end of the rising, or what is the beginning through middle to the end of the in-breath and out-breath. So this is a kind of a sharpening of your understanding about the materiality, and mindfulness also become very, very sharpened. And then understand all the possible 11 facets of any given materiality or material object, and there also we expand the scope of the mindfulness with respect to the materiality. So with that kind of discrete understanding, then the Buddha introduced specifically in Satipatthana Sutta, after the materiality, to the feelings as a aspect of mentality. So when it is going there, just like materiality, we try to understand the difference between the materiality and mentality. And over there, the pleasurable feeling and painful feeling, and there are different grossness, subtleness, likings and disliking. So all become subject matter. And when they are going further, we took how the feeling, what is the role of the feeling in the 12 aspects of dependent arising or dependent origination. And we found contact is the proximate cause. And if you are unmindful, if you are not thorough, the feelings are naturally leading to desire or lust. And if you are mindful, and if you are ready to take this as a aspect to be learned thoroughly, you can lead it to wisdom instead. So therefore, Vedana Paccaya Tanha could be trained to Vedana Paccaya Panya, and that is the task of the advanced yogi. So with that knowledge, yesterday we took the discussion between the Sister Dhammadina and the Visakha, and there Visakha is the Upasaka is asking kind of a leading questions from the sister Dhammajiva, and what is the pain and pleasure of the painful feeling, what is the pain and pleasure of the pleasurable feeling, and what is the pain and pleasure of the no pain, no pleasure feeling. And they are the in-between one, no pain, no pleasure come into being, come into the scene, and each and every aspect, pleasurable, painful, or no pain, no pleasure, is transition. So therefore, the given definition, given norm is ever changing. So how far the meditator prepared to see this changing nature? And that is called diligence, the vigilance, and keeping the feeling under your very nose and observe thoroughly. When you're observing, you can see it is quite transition, and this transitional nature is quite bewildering, quite mystifying your understanding of on the feelings as a theoretical understanding is concerned, but it is somewhat invitive, somewhat adventurous, somewhat radical, somewhat to look into. And today I thought of proceeding little further with the same discussion, same dialogue between the Upasaka, the Visakha the Upasaka, and the Sister Dhammajiva. Hence today's topic, what underlying tendency under the pleasant feeling. He is asking a question from the Sister Dhammajiva. Whenever the pleasant feeling happens, the pleasurable feeling happens, but the underlying tendency is mystifying, bewildering. So this is not the proximate cause. Feeling, the touch is the contact is the proximate cause. And due to the proximate cause, pleasurable feeling can happen. And according to your personality, according to your likings and disliking, there's an underlying tendency or directed disposition, and always it is mystifying, pleasurable feeling. The lust is the underlying tendency whenever the pleasurable feeling happens. Whenever you are with an object face to face with, and if it is pleasurable, the coloration of your mind is lustful. The backdrop is lustful, and therefore not only being a yogi, you must just give into the pleasurable feeling and get trapped into the lust. You can understand both the facets, what is the face value and what is behind the screen. And the face value, role model is the pleasure. And behind the screen you can see lust is playing. So unless otherwise you are thorough and go prepared to not to indulge the pleasurable feeling, but to make sure whether there is a lust behind it. So you have to be very thorough. We have to look into the same thing again and again, instead of entertaining it, instead of indulging it, instead of entering into that, instead of talking about that. You have to see what is behind, what is underlying. And the day you understand this lust, you can see the arising of the lust is not my will. It is not my desire, but it is happening. That relationship between the pleasurable feeling and the lust, is it happening due to whose agenda? I am fulfilling whose agenda, and therefore I can't understand what is happening. Ultimately it is by default going to this desire, the lustfulness. So the day you understand, or the day you go prepared to understand each and every pleasurable feeling is with the underlying tendency of the lust, you will go deep into your subconscious behind the screen and try to understand the human mind rather than your mind. Your personality understanding this is me, this is mine, and this is myself, like my mind, my pleasurable feeling, and my mindfulness, all the kind of thing dissolve into a vast area that is called the human mind. And later, whenever you are familiarized with, seasoned with, and master with that, you can understand each and everyone is the same. As far as the pleasurable feeling, the underlying tendency is the lust that is everywhere in the human character. So that is the way you can understand the psychology through you, and it is applicable to the society at large. To make it more reiterated, make it more reinforced, if you go further little with this discussion, and what is the underlying tendency, underlying painful feeling. The Upasaka, the Visaka, the Upasaka is asking, dear sister, what is the underlying tendency, underlying the painful feeling? And Sister Dhammajiva is telling, Upasaka, the underlying tendency, underlying the painful feeling is the aversion. So whenever painful thing happen, the kind of a resistance, kind of a irritation, kind of a aversion happens, you can't hardly discriminate the painful feeling and the aversion. The day you discriminate it, the day you delimit it, your inflicting nature of the painful feeling is reducing. I am repeating, whenever you are discriminating the painful feeling and the aversion, the inflicting nature of the pain reducing, your knowledge, your wisdom, your understanding about the phenomena is increasing. It is no more in the default way, it is completely in a radical way. So for that you must have preparedness. You must have mindfulness at your fingertip. And you must know this is a painful feeling. And instead of get caught up and carried away by a trip, by aversion, you must be ready to see the painful feeling and its shadow, its underlying tendency, the aversion. So this aversion is not so sour in taste, not so bitter in taste, not so astringent in taste. It's very, very pleasurable when you see it under your very nose. If you become delayed, you will caught up in the trap. So then and there you have to understand. So writing about a book on anger, Turman, he is writing, I will never angry with anger ever. So main thing is not to get angry with the anger. You have to understand it, you have to confront it, you have to go prepare it. Only you can see under your very nose, red-handed, whenever you are confronted with unpleasant or painful feeling. So there this understanding make a complete hilarious, complete freshness, new air into your meditation. So therefore when and where this unpleasant thing happens, unpleasant feeling comes to face, don't let the mind to get carried away by irritation and fault finding, self-accusation, or aversion. Just see the relationship like chain actions, and when and where it happens, just like the pleasure and the lust, it's applicable everywhere, even to the animals, even to the plants. Whenever the plant is confronted with a harsh situation, it turn away, or of course without a feeling or kind of thing. The natural adopt into the to avoid it. So this is how our evolution took place. So therefore we can understand how these principles are working together. So unless otherwise you are sharp at phenomena under your very nose without delaying or without advancing it, be there, sometimes you can catch it. And that originally it happened and the appreciation happened with the Buddha. And then the Buddha wanted to share it with us. But how difficult to teach it, because so much of preparations, so much of preparedness must be there to comprehend it, even in theoretical sense, or in rationalization, or when further, when you are doing and to catch it under your very nose. So therefore, your approach to the painful feeling must not be with the preconceived idea of finding fault with oneself or finding fault with others or attributing to others. Instead, just see how is the backdrop or behind the screen, the aversion is working. So therefore, your approach to the unpleasant feeling, your preparedness for the unpleasant feeling must not be unpleasant. It must be an experiment-like thing. And further, whenever there is no pleasure, no pain kind of, a neutral kind of, grey kind of feeling happens, what's the underlying tendency? Underlying is ignorance, or you can say unmindfulness. Whenever such a neutral thing happens, often mind fall asleep, or mind fall is boring, or monotonous, or uncertain, or fearful. Somewhere or the other it is not happy whenever there is no pain, no pleasure. So that we call ignorance. And if you go prepared just like with the pleasurable feeling or painful feeling, whenever you are with no pain, no pleasure, to be aware, you are mindful, vigilant. Now mind presently with the no pain, no pleasure. First I have to recognize discreetly from the pain and the pleasure. And whenever it happens, you can see the tendency of the mind to escape. Go for a hobby, or look at the television, or go for the newsreel, or reading a novel, or make a trip. Whatever may be, because your avijja is try to avoid it and make it more eventful, make it more dramatical, make it for happy, and therefore you never appreciate no pain, no pleasure. Instead, if you go prepared, you can see most of your sitting, most of your walking meditation, day-to-day activities are filled with no pain, no pleasure. When such a thing happens, if you are aware, do away with avijja and to be mindful and appreciate it, that is the middle path. That is the Eight Noble Path. And that one is the most we neglect or do away with. Because we are always happy with dramatic extremes, pleasant. In case or in search of pleasurable thing, ultimately we end up with the pathetically, hysterically painful thing, and mind is sick, mind is completely hacked. So instead, whenever it is coming to no pain, no pleasure, if you are to understand it, if you have to appreciate it, you have to put it as wisdom. That is the wise. That is the middle path. That's the Eighth Noble Path. So when and where you mature enough to understand, mature enough to appreciate this kind of no pain, no pleasure situation, you find our human mind is endowed with no pain, no pleasure. But naturally we try to avoid it, calling it is boring, calling it is monotonous, calling it is outcasted, calling it is eventless, very pale. And therefore whenever in search of make it dramatic, ultimately you disturb the unturbulent flow into a turbulent. And whenever that happens, you will again push into the extremes, either pain or pleasure. And their mind is agitated, and burning the candle from both the ends, utter waste. So this discussion is slowly leading to the understanding of no pain, no pleasure situation. And whenever preparedness happen, and you are lucky enough to understand, that is, we call in the Western language, this is what you call day-to-day unsatisfactoriness. You are happy to put up with this no pain, no pleasure. You are happy to put up with this so-called boredom. You are happy to put up with so-called monotonous situation. There you appreciate there is no extreme pleasure, no extreme pain. So it is the normal run. So that is called normal day-to-day unsatisfactoriness. So it is bearable if you are thorough with the theory and with under-the-nose experience, it is bearable. But if you do not know theoretically and you have never experienced it and appreciated it, it appears like a loneliness. If you are thorough and if you are appreciating, if you theoretically aware, it becomes aloneness. Loneliness and aloneness, exactly the same thing. Two individuals give two names. For some, it is a punishment. You are cornered, you are outcasted. Nothing happened. Everything is very boring and pale. And that is why in the Western countries, at the age of 55, people go pension, and some maybe at the 60s, it's agony, because you are being outcasted. You will put into a house for elders, and you are neglected. Younger generation is forward and making constitutions and sending the trends and setting the trends, and very busy. So going to old age is a punishment. But in the Eastern countries, the people with the long beard, white head and kind of thing, appreciated. So that is the way, because they know at the young blood boiled, searching for this kind of hilarious things, but ultimately when you become 50 plus, you understand it's a kind of a consumerization, just luxurious thing. And what about compromising for the middle, just accepting the day-to-day unsatisfactoriness, or you call it no pain, no pleasure, and they are wisdomerized. So we generally can say the Western is, but it is very hardly, there's no boundary as such, but within a person also that maturity can happen, and that is the same thing we can enhance by insight meditation, specifically on the feelings, and by being prepared for all the three feelings together, and then first understand, often our mind slips, that overlook this no pain, no pleasure. And that is the point where the wisdom lies. If you are not sharp enough, that will appear like ignorance. By avoiding it and by escaping it, or by wrong attribution. But the day you understand, now I am in no pain, no pleasure, something appreciable, let the mind to be here and now without much volitional activities like making it dramatic, make it eventful, just be. And when it's happening, the cause and effect relationship is the only principle going to happen. Because you are not forking fingers into the phenomena. Your egocentric thing is you withdraw as much as possible. You are not going to push one-upmanship, your conceit, and you are not going to fight for the lion's share, the bigger part. You just let the thing happen. When it's happened, more chances for you to understand there are some universal laws, mental laws, and whenever you become an observer, that is what happens. Whenever you try to not to push with your conceit, that is what happens. Whenever you are ready to accept your share, not the lion's share, then that is what happens. Then the Buddha says, whenever you see cause and effect relationship, you see Dhamma. That is what you call Dhamma. That is what you call living Dhamma. Whenever you see Dhamma, you see the Buddha. It's a very simple equation the Buddha given. But we never allow the Dhamma to happen because of our craftsmanship, because of our smart nature to grasp the lion's share, the bigger share, or to push yourself first, one-upmanship, or egocentric idea. So that is the normal society at large, but that is the normal, your mind in the society. So whenever you go to a solitude place and sit and be aware first, the materiality, whereby you sharpen your mindfulness, and whenever the materiality becomes somewhat familiar, you can go to, mind is naturally going to feelings, and there you can understand how much it is avoiding by your craftsmanship, the no pain, no pleasure area. And whenever you are to be there, it appears like you are no one. You become just a citizen zone. You are not a special person. Because no pain, no pleasure is not going to give any fame, gain or nothing. So therefore you always chasing behind. And if you enough experience or bad experience of that kind of thing in the common sense, then you can try not to push, just to accept the day-to-day unsatisfactoriness. And there you can see, still there are some principles, there are some universal laws or mind laws. They are working, and you have to be very silently observe it, just like you are sitting by a river in a dry place and just look at the flow. When you're observing the flow, you are dry. But if you're going to fork your hand, you will get wet. If you're going to put your leg will get, and the river will be turbulence. So therefore, how long, how far you can appreciate this no pain, no pleasure, and let the thing happen, there you master not only the aspect of feeling, and you understand how the mind is working if it is misled by either lust or aversion or ignorance. The free flow will be utterly in a turbulent. And that is the point the senility comes into being. You are overtaxed and your battery is flat because it is overconsumed and uneven consumption. Whenever you come back to the no pain, no pleasure acceptance, then you become a human. You are not carried away by tendencies. Whenever it is carried away by tendencies, your mind cannot see just and unjust, Dhamma and Adhamma. So you are just carried away by a turbulence. So that is the normal way. So therefore, occasionally whenever you come, you see there is another world, and their principles are different. That world is called the noble world. It is always waiting for you to come. As far as you are busy with this kind of a smart ship and one-upmanship and the conceit, you will be pushed away to the extremes. But whenever you can slow down, you come to the middle, and there is no advertisements. There are no chasing behind the fame, gain, and therefore there is no tension, and mind is quite at relax. And when that happens, you yourself can compare the mind with that so much of the tension and the frustration and chasing behind results. Instead, this world, this equilibrium is running by itself. You can be a part and parcel of it. And you are a winner. You are a winner, but that winning is a walkover without a rivalry. It's a beautiful thing. It is the noble thing. In the other world, you are always fighting. Sometimes you are winning, but so much of enemies you are creating. Jealousy. But here, you are the winner because it is immaterial pleasure, enormous pleasure. It is inalienable. It is unalloyed. It's so natural. No one is fighting. And you can go at your will when and where you master the mental aspect of no pain, no pleasure, the feeling. And when and where it comes from the extremes to the middle, you feel. Now I am leading to no pain, no pressure. Earlier I hate it, or mind becomes sleepy, or body becomes slimy, mind becomes slimy and boring, monotonous, cornered-like. But instead now you go with full vigilance, full energy, you are the same person. Attitude change, and there you find enormous amount of happiness. It's an immaterial kind of happiness. And the next, the Upasaka is asking, sister, each and every pleasant feeling having these lustful underlying tendencies? She says no. There are some other places where pleasure is there, but it is not undermined by underlying tendencies. Whenever you go with the meditation, sometimes you feel it, and there it is not dragged away by the lust. For an example, she gives that whenever someone goes to the second jhana or first jhana, jhanic experiences, the rapture and the happiness is there. It is coming out of meditation. Lust have no any role there. There is some specific places where the pleasure is there, though no lust. And as far as the aversion is concerned, some people are so chasing behind to achieve jhana, to achieve vipassana jhana, to achieve the fruition, to achieve nibbana. So they are also very agitated. They wanted to get it quickly. So they are also a kind of unpleasant situation happen. I practiced 20 years, so I practiced under this master, this method, that method. Still I have not gained anything like that. You have kind of a unpleasant or painful situation, but it is not driven by aversion. So these are the places the sister Dhammajiva is very sharply, very discreetly says, generally, whenever you are not associating noble people, listening to noble Dhamma and practicing noble practice, when you are not listening to Dhamma and practicing, and if you have experience, definitely the pleasurable feeling is covered by lust. Definitely the painful feelings are undermined by underlying tendency of aversion. But in the Dhamma, you feel sometimes this kind of a winning. It is walkover-like, and anytime you can go there. So more and more you practice, you find shortcuts how to go into this no pain, no pleasure situation. And even amidst of all the busy life, even in the carnival or in dinner parties, everywhere, you can cut through and come to here and now, and then find shortcuts in finding no pain, no pleasure, or accepting the day-to-day unsatisfactoriness. There you can find no much of burning fuel, no much of burning the candle from both the ends. You manage to be the no pain, no pleasure situation. So in practicing, whenever you are going to that part of your practice, that is utterly vipassana, utterly inside meditation, your mind, I would say it is shifting from the left hemisphere of the brain to the right hemisphere. Sometimes you can monitor it and see, give a fair chance for the right hemisphere, like a parable or an example, or to give a system approach rather than this reductionist and probing into one particle, like to see the whole universe as one system or humanity as one system. I am not the only person seeking about the pleasure. Everyone is the same. Why should I suppress others? Why should I exploit others? Kind of a system approach. It's that transition, we can say, the evolution, next step in the evolution, you can facilitate it if you have these early qualifications or teaching materials. So one day, during the time of the Buddha, there's an elderly person became a monk and went to the Buddha, known as Malunke Putta. And when the Buddha was in a quiet situation, he went and paid respect and told Bhante, I feel like going to a solitude place, practice thoroughly. Would you mind to give me a meditation object and the instructions? Then the Buddha told that I have given already. Why you are asking specifically? You are a very old person. You must know the basic meditation instructions. And if you are asking like that, what about the newcomer, young person? He must be much more demanding. Like Buddha is little hesitant. But later there is a question and answer session. There is a dialogue. And very enlightening. The Buddha says that I will ask few questions. Give answer as you like. Buddha says that atti chakku viññeya rūpa adittang aditta bubbana passatina passisanti santite pemangva ragangva chandangva. Imagine there is a visual object which you can look by eyes, but you have never seen. Now you are not looking at also. It is not, it is not you are looking at, you are not seeing it. And in time to come, in the future also, you are going to, there won't be any happening that you are going to see it. Can there be any attachment for that kind of a visual object? You have never seen, now you are not looking, you are not seeing, in future also you are going to see it. Then the Malunke Putta says no. And then the Buddha is asking sound, which is perceived by the eye, ear. You have never heard, you are not hearing, you are not listening, you are not going to listen in time to come in future. Under such circumstances, can there be any attachment? Can there be any desire? Can there be any kind of a lust for that kind of a sound? No. Then the Buddha is repeating, smell, taste, touch, or thought. And after the giving this kind of a dialogue, the Malunke Putta himself got the point. And he says, Bhante, if I got the point, this is the way I understood. And Maha explaining that, quoting this sutta in his treatise, he says, if the past thing and the future thing not going to create any defilement, only the present moment is vulnerable for defilements. Take care about that. Be mindful about that for present, and then you are the master. Otherwise you will be a person worrying about what happened, or maybe excited for what is going to happen. You have been overtaxed. So don't worry about the past and the future. Be aware of the present moment. And that is the interpretation of Maha. But Malunke Putta, he says, person going with that kind of mindfulness, and if happen to see a picture, visual object, and the person going with mindfulness happen to see the same picture, what will be the difference? That's very, very dramatically he present. Whenever you happen to see a visual object unmindfully, what is the default chain reaction? Instead, if you happen to see the picture and you go prepared, you're mindful, and you have done the same mistake, and now with preparedness, how the default chain reaction can be changed into feelings to tanha is the default, how can lead it to panya, or the wisdom. He says, Rupan disva sati mutta. You are not mindful. You see an object, a visual object. Piyanimittang manasikaroti. You get delighted. As according to our example, while walking, if you see something, mind is quite happy to see the visual object rather than keeping the mind with your normal left leg and right leg. So naturally, your tendency is to see the visual object. Sarata chitto vedeti. There is a lust behind and pull you not to keep with this walking as such, but to taken yourself to the visual object. Tanja ajjosatittati, you without your pushing, without your will, the magnetizing it, you feel like getting into that visual object, so much so you forget about your primary object or your walking meditation. Tassa vaddanti vedana aneka arupa samva. Then you keep on proliferating upon that, the visual object. What a nice thing, only over here I can see. If I can get a photo, if I can take it and enlarge, like you keep on fantasizing about the visual object. Chittamasupahanyati, and then you immediately get stressful. You become tensed and titillated by the visual object. Abhijjacha vihesacha chittamasupahanyati. Their mind get activated by either hate or desire or self-accusation or finding fault oneself. So mind become very actively engaged in the visual object, and you are far away from the liberation and far away from your primary object and far away from your meditation and the mindfulness. That is the default. But instead, knowing that not only you master the materiality, you know the feelings, and you know the default, you have listened, you have the knowledge, and then naso rajyati rupesu rupan disva patissato. Immediately, whenever the mind go away from your walking meditation or scenery meditation, you know your object change from the primary object to the visual object. That is the function of mindfulness. And you are not going to entertain the gatecrasher, the visiting object of visual thing, because you know the track, changing of the track from the primary object to the secondary object. There viratta chitto vedeti. You are not happy about this unmindfulness going out from your primary object. You are not going to take observe the natural characteristics of the visual object. You are not going to go look into detail, because you know now you are in a dangered area, you are not in your domain. Therefore, you viratta chitto vedeti tancha najyosa tittati. You are not appreciating this visual object instead of your primary object. That is the difference between the meditator, the person who is mindful, and yatas passato rupang sevato chapa vedana. At that moment you have already seen a visual object, and you know it's a pleasurable. Already you know you are no more in your primary object. You know you are in a visual object. You know it's pleasurable, but still there won't be any defilements happening because of your awareness. And chiyati no pachiyati. You are not brooding upon, you are not proliferating upon the visual object. You know you are in a dangerous place. You are not in the domain. So therefore, you know the way from there to back to home. Way back home. That is what you are concerned about. Evang so charati sato. That is your mindfulness. That is how mindfulness is leading you. Therefore, before the seeing of this visual object, you are mindful. And after seeing with mindfulness, when you come back to the primary object, when you come back home, again you are mindful. So in between these two thought moments of mindfulness, no defilement. Everything becomes null and void. This is the first time in one's life, learn the art of getting rid of already arisen defilement in your stream of consciousness, or make defilements null and void. It is very tiny thing maybe, but a big breakthrough from the continuation of our default system. So when that happens, you know, if you are worrying about going out of the mind from the primary object to the visual objects, you will be bewildered. You will be carried away. So you don't have enough theory understanding. You don't have enough rational reasoning or inferential knowledge. You don't have any practical knowledge. And you expect or you find fault with others. Instead, if you are master of your feelings and let that mishap happens, main thing is not to worry. Just see how the way back to your primary object, nothing preventing you. Facilities are always there. That is what I call human right. We have that way back home. Instead of thinking about way back home, if you are going to find fault with the object, or you are going to accuse yourself telling, I am an unskillful person, or you get irritated or averse or lustful, this ignorance is the only blockage. So even on that ignorance, just be sympathetic. Mishap can happen. Your main task is to bring it back to the primary object, where the day you can explain what was the distraction and how did you come to know that I am in a distraction and in the vulnerable area, and how quickly you can come back to the primary object. Whenever you come back to the primary object, how do you verify I came from danger to secure place? If you can explain that, definitely you are going into the noble sphere or noble path. At least that thought moment is noble. At least that thought moment is you are an Arya or Arya Puggala. Later you may be doing mishap later, but that breakthrough going to show you in this very life you can expect something. You are not a born unskillful person. This life is the experiment. By being prepared, you can redo, you can correct almost all the mistakes if you have enough tools. So this not only helpful you in the sitting and walking meditation, imagine at the household situation, imagine at your office situation, imagine what is happening in the parliamentarians and what you see, read in the headline of the news. Immediately mind will take that as the most attractive thing, and instead of getting engaged in the talkative things and fertilizing it, indulging it, entering it, if you know where to bring the mind back and be mindful, you are in safe hands. You are in safe heaven. Don't expect someone to come and remind you, hey, you are out, no more in mindfulness, you are agitated, please go back home. If you expected that from the Buddha, I am sorry. Buddha is not for that. Before this happens, you must have this experience. You must know any time mind can jump outside. That you don't find fault with. If you know how to come back, you will never get entangled with these heated arguments. You can't convince the world. People have no this basic understanding, no mindfulness. They have not listened to Dhamma. They have not practiced. They have no their own trial and error experience. Then how to convince? Don't go into fish in the troubled water. Find your way back home. And still, if you do not know where to bring the mind, you are vulnerable. Whatever the God you are following, whatever the teacher you are following, whatever the magic you are going to do, you are so vulnerable. Only thing is you must know under such troubled situation, what is my safe haven? What is my primary object? Take your posture. Take your bodily posture wherever may be. And if you know, you will be a person not engaging in dialogue or quarrels, heated arguments, and you know it's a kind of a fertilizing, it's a kind of a feeding, and the other party also will get agitated and unwanted things happen. fighting and arguing and taking weapons and lying and slandering and harsh words and tail carrying, everything can happen. But at the beginning, whenever it is going off, you are a very innocent person, but you are unskillful. If you are giving a chance for the ignorance, immediately you can behave like a devil or completely ignoble person. So that slip, don't attribute to someone's mistake. So the second day, third day, we took the particular sutta known as Madhupindika Sutta. The very first episode is a real event, how this kind of skillfulness in meditation could be applied in our day-to-day life. One day the Buddha, after taking the lunch at his hometown, go to a nearby forest and doing relaxing midday. And while happening, there's another elderly person came with a stick. It's a Brahman family, and asked, what is your preaching? What do you assert? What do you proclaim? Or what is your principles of life? The answer the Buddha given is very difficult to comprehend. And the Buddha says, main thing is, I do whatever I can do not to quarrel with, not to argue with others. I don't say one-to-one and try to end up the argument. That is my principle. So it is appear like a retaliation for that particular person. And it is given in a very technical way. In Madhupindika Sutta, I have kind of a way, I never get entangled with argumenting, quarreling with other people. I keep my sense pleasure minimal, no perplexity in my mind. I have no any hate to get rid of you. That is nothing personal with you. But I try to avoid, do away with this kind of one-to-one talking. And I'm not worrying to teach you or to get the message from you. It is nonsense. I have no that kind of a thing. And free from craving, I keep myself not to get retaliated, not to get argued with. That is my principle. And that particular person definitely do not understand. He is just going away, showing some signs that I don't get the answer. And then the Buddha never try to correct that particular person. But when he come back to the monastery, he tell this event to the other monks. Oh monks, when I was relaxing at the midday, person came and asked what kind of, what do you assert and what do you proclaim. But I told, my way of teaching is not to get entangled with talking and arguing. And I keep my sense pleasure low. I have no any perplexity or any negativity, and I have no any desire, and I am not worrying. Keeping that, I try to keep unto myself. And then monks also get perplexed. They don't understand. They ask one day, what does it mean? Then the Buddha says, whenever you are living in the world, if your mind is going to proliferate on something, if you are going to get some perception upon that mind is going churning and proliferating, don't entertain it. Don't talk with others about that. Don't get into the content of that. Still the minds are bewildered. This the monks can't understand. And then only the monks thinks, the Buddha told us something very, with this initiative we don't understand. What shall we do? Then they all get together and go to the Maha, one of the recognized disciple of the Buddha. He says, go and say, Bhante, you are a senior person. You understand what the Buddha says. You are very skillful in teaching others. Please, give us any commentary on this. Then he says, while Buddha is there, why you are coming to me? Go and ask directly from the Buddha. And after 3 times pleading, the person he says, whenever eye contact with the visual object, if the consciousness is there, contact happens. When the contact happens, immediate results is the feeling. Pasavaccha Vedana. Yang Vedeti tan sanjanati. Whatever you feel, you are going to recognize. Mind is cognizing and recognizing happen. Whatever you are going to recognize, yang tang vitakketi. You apply mind again and again into that. Whatever you apply mind, then mind going proliferating or inner chatter keep on going. Whenever such a thing happens, don't try to entertain it. Do not try to get into the content of it. And don't try to repeat it with your near and dear one. Stop then and there. That is what Buddha says when you are in a society, when we are confronted with the people, or when you are with one particular object in meditation. If you know your primary object, whenever this happens, there may be this kind of dialogues, this kind of discussions, inner chatter. Whenever happen, whatever leading to the proliferation is more defiled than your primary object. Take refuge of the primary object in order to bring your mind back to the healthy land, safe haven, primary object. See this proliferating thinking, that definitely it is because of your egotistic, conceited, desirable thing. So therefore, try to understand this mental proliferation, don't fertilize it. So, to understand and not to fertilize, not to appreciate this mental proliferation, the feeling is a key mental factor. But to understand, whenever desirable things happen, you are agitated, or whenever painful things happen, you are agitated, then you get hooked up with dialogues and proliferation internally or externally. That is the point where you are leading to unknown, uncontrollable state. So where you must have your neutral object, your no pain, no pleasure area, or your primary object. You must know your safe haven. Whenever such a thing happens, see the shortcut to come back to the primary object. Then that is called the highest, restraint. Discipline-wise. So before that only you have moral discipline. Upon that only you can catch the feelings away from the materiality and three kinds of feelings, and see the provocative nature of the extremes, desirable and painful, and take refuge of the middle. And whenever it happens, the mind naturally feels it is not dramatic. It is not desirable, because mind is searching both the extremes. So you have to see, when you go to the extreme, what happens. Instead, what will happen if you come back to the no pain, no pleasure area. Now you can say you are on the path. So I would like to sum up the talk at that level, and this will be the end of the series, end of the topic. Thank you very much for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.